All right, so now we get to the fun portion of this series where we're talking about executing on your content production. So what that means is how much freaking reps are you putting in? Are you doing 100 curls? Or are you doing 20 a week? How much you put in will equal a great amount of how much you get back. And so it's kind of like if you put in a lot more reps, you're going to get a lot more views. And it's so hard for people to wrap their head around that sometimes because they'll be thinking, oh, I do one video a week and it takes me so much effort to do. Well, guess how much easier it'll be once you've done them 100 more times. I can't tell you how much effort my first few dozen different videos took for me to do. First off, I was trying to script them, and as you can probably tell from all these videos, I do not script my stuff anymore. I actually want to get a teleprompter, so I think that'd be kind of interesting. But I digress. Scripting is not something I was naturally good at. I'd rather have a few bullet points and then talk off the cuff, even if that means there's a 15% chance of having fluff in the video. I try not to, and I try to talk fast so that there's not pauses. I try not to be too heavy when it comes to these videos and podcasts. But the point is, I just do naturally better when I'm more off the cuff and more improvisation. And so learning that took a while because I was trying to follow what I learned from other content creators. They talked about scripting out your videos and being more precise and editing it so finely print. Right now, YouTube really pushes raw content more often than edited. And it's not because edited are bad, it's just because raw is usually more beneficial to the viewer because it's easier to get out. Right, if I'm just sitting here recording this video and then I spend the next day trying to edit it, because mind you, first off, even a 10-minute video or however long this ends up being will take me a while to edit because I procrastinate on it. I hate editing. It's not something I'm good at. I mean, I'm good at doing it. I'm not good at getting myself to do it. And so even a short 10-minute video is going to be a hard challenge for me to accomplish, and then that means I'm going to output less. By not editing these videos, I can get 6 done in a week and schedule them out ahead of time. And I say in a week, most of the time I get them done in a day. You probably notice I've worn the same shirt. I don't like doing a lot of, I would rather change clothes and make it more visually interesting and different, but I was more concerned with just getting these content done. And I really wanted to execute and get, basically, I'll just tell you. I always forget that I can get meta on this channel. I wanted to batch this series ahead of time. Not just this series. I've actually batched 6 other videos before recording this even, because I want to get the rest of the year done. Not only do I have 2 conferences next month, actually by the time this video comes out, it would have been like last month, but in October I have 2 conferences, one of which is Vid Summit, which is going to be a huge YouTuber conference, and I'm going to meet a lot of people, and presumably I'm going to want to interview a lot of people as well. So I'm going to need the bandwidth to focus on the interviews. I do not want to focus on doing a consistency factor of all my different series that I'm doing. My other 2 series, the Polymath newsletter and the Polytools newsletter, which is very much hand in hand with this one, is something I want to get done too. There's about 28 posts per of those newsletters. This one is going to be continuous, but I just want to get 15 weeks ahead, basically to the end of the year, and just schedule them all out. And so that means every week I'll have a video go out. I do have to fix, automation tools tend to break. They tend to have some sort of issue here and there. Substack, for example, when I post a video on Substack, 9 times out of 10, it posts to YouTube. There has been a few different cases where it hasn't actually sent over to YouTube. So I got to make sure I double check each week that it gets sent over. I also have to change the thumbnail because for some reason, even when there are 2 megabytes or less, the thumbnails do not get sent over from Substack to YouTube. I have to make sure I manually upload it and maybe add some description if I have to. But for the most part, it's just tweaking. It's not actually uploading to 2 different places. And so I wanted to execute ahead of time. I've gotten better at batching, and I find that when I have these creative bursts, I make better videos, and so I can actually do batching more effectively. And by batching, now I can focus on interviews, I can focus on doing other big projects like writing my books. Something I did recently, a couple weeks ago actually, was I scheduled out 2,600 short form videos thanks to Newlink. And it was one of those things where now for the next 300 days, I have posts going out on these new social platforms that I had created specifically for those clips. But I also did the same thing for my main channels as well. And now I have 6 projects in Opus and now 6 more videos to run into Opus. And so that's 12 videos in Opus that are all roughly 8 to 12 minutes long, 15 minutes long. And now I'm going to get however many clips from each of those, and then I can schedule those out on my main channels as well. And I'm actually probably just going to post clips from this, weeks and months ahead of time, just because I want those clips to go out. And so even though it's just a hint of what these videos are about, and you're going to get a lot more out of these videos. And each of the posts, the blog posts underneath the videos, are also unique, and so you're going to get a lot out of the video portion and the written portion. The audio is just part of this video, and so there is a level of execution that I can do from my perspective. For you, it might be different. Maybe you don't want to batch things out. Maybe you like the act of doing it every week, every day. Maybe it's a habit thing for you. By doing it every day, it keeps you consistent, it keeps your skills sharp too, no less. And maybe you write every day for a long time and you're scheduling them out ahead of time. Maybe you're doing only one a week posting, but you're writing every day. And so now you have posts scheduled out way ahead of time. I think that's a fascinating concept. I haven't done it myself, but I have done similar aspects behind just doing a whole bunch in a weekend and scheduling them out the week ahead. And so there's a micro batching in that case. So execution is how much effort you're putting in. Alex Hormozi has a clip that I really like where he's talking to somebody who he's like, why am I not growing? And you look at his strategy and he was posting like 4 to 5 times a week. And that was like across LinkedIn and YouTube and like one reel and that kind of thing. Like literally 5 posts, not 5 reels, not 5 YouTube videos, literally 5 posts across all his different content ecosystem. And he's talking to this other guy and he's like, I'm posting 90 times a week, 400 times, like, or not 400, but like I'm doing like 90 posts per week. And he's like, got it. And then from there, he hired other people to help him master this content format and very much repurposing skills and doing it for him, or even just teaching him how to do it. And so now Alex Hormozi in that same week posts 450 times, which is insane, right? If you're doing 450 posts per week, you're going to grow exponentially faster than the person next to you only doing 90 or 5. Most of you watching this are probably only doing 5 to 12 posts a week. Maybe you're posting more because you like to post on threads. Cool. Those count, but unless you're doing it every day and unless you're reacting to a lot of people's comments and replying a lot, you're not going to grow much from there either. You got to be interacting with people to really grow. So there is a point of going to these different platforms and replying to people like on Substack notes and threads and YouTube comments and that kind of thing. That's a point to do that, and you should do that daily if you can. But scheduling content out ahead of time by executing a lot already and initially. Like you don't have to post 50 times a day manually. You can do this by repurposing. So your execution is your daily output, is the how many reps you're putting in. But you don't necessarily have to do 450 reps natively. You could do this in a repurposing and syndication context. Hence the previous 2 videos about strategy and automation. Execution is a matter of how much effort are you putting in, right? But it's a multiplier. That is the key. Strategy plus automation times execution. These 2 factors in the beginning, the strategy and automation, those are factors that can't necessarily change too much. Your strategy is going to probably change when the platforms change, sure. Or like if you're changing your focus from YouTube to podcast or to a blog or newsletter. If your focus changes, then yeah, your strategy is going to change. But that's going to stay relatively the same for a long period of time. Even this series I'm doing now is the same strategy that I had back in 2018, 2019. Now I'm just executing on it more effectively because I have the experience. However, the strategy idea I thought was already pretty powerful back then, and now I'm able to do it better because the tools are more aligned with what I want to do, and my skill is sharper. But strategy is not going to change. Your automation tools, once you set them up, are not going to change. There might be a new tool, you can try it out, and maybe that'll help accelerate you farther, but new tools only occur maybe every quarter of the year. They're not going to be a monthly change. Even every quarter is mainly due to that AI boom, and the AI boom is now kind of crashing down a little bit, I feel like. There's just basically these GPT wrappers, and a lot of them are going to implode. I'm sorry to say. Tools like OpusClip have a lot more behind it than just GPT. They actually have an AI behind it for the Clip Anything model. So it's more than just GPT. Other tools like Clap and Video or whatever they want to call themselves, they're using just GPT still, and they're not really refined past that point. So they're going to crash out eventually. And then you have the execution factor. So once you have these other 2 in place, because they're not going to change, not very much at least, then what can change is your execution, which is why I'm making this video and podcast right now. Because if you can execute harder and do more natively on top of what you're already multiplying from before, that's what's going to make it change. Because the only thing you can really change is your execution. These other 2 are going to be stable. And this is the first time I've talked about it in this way. And I really think it's interesting. I'm glad I'm coming up with this idea as we're talking right now, because it is so fascinating to me how much people try to focus on the right tool or the right strategy, but they're not doing the execution part. They're not showing up on Threads. They're not even showing up on TikTok, which nowadays I have mixed feelings about. But for a lot of people, TikTok is still valuable and it's still worth being on there, even if it's just simply syndicating. I can't tell you how many people just don't syndicate their content. They just post the reels or just YouTube shorts, and that's it. I have a buddy who only does that. And I'm like, dude, it takes 2 steps to set up an automation to send that same YouTube short to the other platforms. Not a big deal to go ahead and just do that and just take the opportunity to now have more posts going out. I saw a reel today actually about, it was from Gary Vee, and he's talking about how there is context to every platform. I agree. It is true that my reel and my YouTube short and my TikTok, even if they're the same video, is going to perform differently between the different platforms. My caption should change between the platforms. Yes. Will I do that? Probably not for a while. And maybe that's a level of execution that I need to upgrade myself. But I just think that right now, really, these clips are more what's important. Actually, I think what I need to do, execution-wise, is find a way to add a title to the first couple of seconds. So that way, people can know what that video is about when they're scrolling through. Because right now, if you scroll through the feeds, all the clips look the same. All the videos on the feed look the same, despite the fact they're completely different clips. The captions are different. The captions are descriptive, but you don't see the captions when you're on the profile. So no one's clicking through these. And I don't know exactly what to do right now for that, but I'm hoping that down the line I can figure out a way to add a little title card. Because basically TikTok and I think Instagram pull the first 2 seconds or 3 seconds as the thumbnail. YouTube Shorts is random, so you can't do anything about that one. But the other two you can do about. And I think that is an important distinction. That could be some sort of execution I can find. Maybe find an automation tool and then execute one weekend to, repurpose all my clips. Now at this point, all my clips are already scheduled out. But these new clips can then have a title card, if I can figure that out. Again, I digress. But that is something that if I were to work harder at, I would probably get more benefit, views and comments and engagement, and actually grow faster because people are actually more likely click on those videos instead of just seeing them randomly in the feed. And because right now I'm kind of relying just on the feed and algorithm, whereas my fans and followers could actually purposely click on a video because they can see the topic as they're scrolling through. If they happen to be on your profile, which nowadays is not always the case. Execution is a factor of how much effort you are putting out. And if you can do more, then you're going to get back more. If you can do more on top of your automation, on top of your strategy, that is what's going to lead you to massive success.